Let us not forget everything that happens is by the will of Allah. It's time to unite and stand, and we will be the best amongst men. It's not time to be extreme or do unthinkable, but to stand together as one. To Sunnah followers streaming every day, various platforms. Trust me, you'll find a way. Sunnah followers. Sunnah followers. Presenting Volume 2 of Diluting Al-Wala Wal-Bara, part of the Right Belief series, the Unveiled Trilogy, written by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid. This book will focus on awakening the faith in a non-faith-centered world. Explained, broken down, and brought to you, unlike before, by Ustada lailanasheeba. Join us Monday through Friday, 6 p.m. Eastern, right here on Sunnahfollowers.
In alhamdulillah, wa salam Allah, wa rasulullah. This is our Aqidah class, and we have been studying. And I want everyone to anyone who does not have the book, Diluting Wala Wal-Bara. You want to go to Amazon.com and buy this book. This is volume 2. Volume 2 of the book, Diluting Wala Wal-Bara, written by Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid. Okay? It's $19.99. You need to get volume 1 too. Okay? Every Muslim who speaks English, if English is your first language, this should be a part of your library. Because I've been giving dawah for over 45 years. Oh, yes. I'm not new. I've been teaching Islam, the basics, to English-speaking peoples for over 45 years. And I have never come upon a collection of books that breaks down what it means to testify to La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah like this trilogy does. We started off with the first book, Get to Know Your Lord. You need to buy that too. And then the second of the trilogy is Diluting Wala Wal-Bara. Volume 1, we completed. This is volume 2. Volume 2 speaks about how to implement allegiance and disassociation when you're living in a non-faith-filled environment, which most of us are living in. In other words, it's a non-religious environment, a secular. When you hear the English word secular, secular means non-religious environment. Today, we're going to speak about the dangers of exposing ourselves and our children to a non-religious environment when it comes to seeking education. And we're going to also speak today about how even with so-called Muslim environments, we have to be careful when it comes to education. So today's discussion is pages 53 through 55 of the book. So everybody take out your book, volume 2 of Diluting Wala Wal-Bara, and turn to page 53. You see, we're just doing 2 pages, it seems, a day because it's so much information and I have to break it down in plain, simple, grassroots English to explain it to you, okay? So let me set it up now for the people on my oh, there they are, my students. They're in here. Good. I'm going to share the screen today to Instagram for you guys. Okay, everybody on Instagram, I can see you. By the way, for those of you there on Instagram, I can see your typing. Sister Denise, if you type something, if I would be able to see it. So if there's any questions or comments that any of you have on Instagram or Facebook or YouTube or LinkedIn or Twitch or Trovo or DLive, type them because I can see and I can respond. I cannot respond to Mixcloud. For those of you on Rumble, Mixcloud, and Odyssey, I cannot see your typing. You'd have to come into YouTube or something. So the only people I cannot see their typing is Mixcloud, Rumble, and Odyssey. Okay. All right. Let me take everything down so I can screen share completely so you guys can. And by the way, what I want you guys to do, because you, as you guys can see, you cannot teach yourself Islam. Anyone that tells you that you can is crazy. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't teach himself. The angel Jibril was his teacher. The companions, he was their teacher, and they were the teacher of the next generation, and so forth and so on. Okay? You have to, so buying this book, you're not going to be able to read it and think you understand what's going on. I'm going to tell you, you're going to be messed up, confused, mixed up. Number one, the English wording is a little bit too big for American speaking people. American English speaking people. When Sheikh Kareem put the book together, I can tell he used United Kingdom English and a lot of words we don't use in American English. So that's going to be a problem for one thing. So what I want you guys to do is when I start with the PowerPoint, I want you guys to take screenshots. Use your cell phone, your laptop, or your tablet to take a screenshot. And then at the end of the class, print all the pages out and then staple them together and then take a paper clip and clip them to page 53 of the book. So that way you will have my PowerPoint, which serves as a great explanation. And I usually add a few more things. I'll add some more hadiths and stuff too, you know, that'll help to, you can explain it to your kids and stuff and keep it for future reference. Okay. All right. So is Fame in here or Mina, one of you guys? You guys are here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, good. So I'm getting ready to go now to PowerPoint. So let me know if it works, if it's a problem. I'm getting ready to switch it now. Okay. All right. Screen share going to, uh-oh, I did the wrong thing. Hold on, give me a minute, guys. And by the way, I meant to make something different with that. I got to work on that tonight. Something different besides that globe. I forgot. I meant to do that last night and fell asleep. Okay, here we go. This should be PowerPoint. And I'm going to make it larger. And I'm going to take this down for your screenshots. Wait a minute. Okay, take everything down. Okay, now I'm going to make it bigger, larger for you guys. Inshallah. Okay, that should be it. That should cover the whole screen. What's going on Instagram? Oh, they're lagging. A lot of lag on Instagram, but there it is. It's catching up. Okay, so today we're covering, is it 53 to 55? Yeah, 53 to 55. And what we're going to focus on today is how secular education and the media, what impact does secular education and the media have on the fitrah of ourselves? Okay. And I want y'all to pay attention, because not just our children, a lot of Muslims here in America, you have your children in non-Muslim schools. They're in the public schools. And unfortunately, some of you are even worse than that. You have your kids in Catholic school, astaghfirullah. Well, whenever we expose our children to non-religious education, it's going to have a gross effect on the fitrah of the heart. Remember, the fitrah, it's that little sliver that was left over from the soul when the soul was in the company of Allah, and it transferred to your heart when you were in your mother's womb as a fetus. That little sliver of fitrah is constantly craving the presence of Allah. It's craving Allah's pleasure. It wants to be connected to Allah. We're supposed to nurture that fitrah. But unfortunately, many of us burn it out. We burn that light out. And one of the number one reasons we burn it out is due to secular education, not just with your children, but even with yourselves. There is one famous, and I've spoken about this brother. I'm not going to mention his name, but I used to love this brother so much for the sake of Allah. When I first developed Sunnahfollowers in 1986, in the early 2000s, that's when I started having other speakers come here to lecture. This is after I had finished my learning from Karadari and Umar al-Ashqar and Jamal Badwi and Sheikh Morsi. That's when Sheikh Morsi gave me the what y'all call ijaza. That's when Sheikh Morsi told me that I am now qualified to teach the people online. This was in 2000. He said, you are now qualified. Your understanding of the Aqidah and the Sunnah and all that is perfect. Go ahead and start doing classes. And I did. And I also invited other brothers to come and lecture. And this one brother, he was a graduate of the University of Medina. Very good speaker. His English is perfect. Because that was the thing. You know, we need people that can speak English well. To the American Muslims, my dawah is designed really for women, American females. And of course, the men can listen to. Well, this brother came here and he used to lecture here. You know, he would do a lot of little, his khutbahs. I used to broadcast his khutbahs every Friday. He would do workshops and things about Islam, the stories of the companions, and I would broadcast him here. And then I got Jamali and all of them. Jamali was always the favorite here. Oh, Jamali back in his heyday. Y'all don't know. Jamali back in his heyday. Oh my God. You talk about, because his specialty was the hadiths. And he could quote them hadiths, but this one brother, I thought even quoted the hadiths better than Jamali. But then something happened. This brother decided to continue his education, although he didn't need it. But he decided to pursue a PhD, not from University of Medina, but he decided to go to the Kafir, the secular school, Harvard, Princeton, the upper Ivy League. He chose the American Ivy League school to get a PhD in. And oh my God, guys, he's changed today. And it hurts me because no longer Is he like he used to be? He's got Sufism in him now. Subhanallah, where before it was all about what the prophet said, what was the understanding of the companions. Now it's gone into psychology, the human psychic. That's how he speaks now, about the human psyche and the grave and the dead. I can't believe it. And when I listen to some of his lectures now, which I don't listen to that many of them, but he'll pop up every now and then, and I'll just, for old time's sake, he's an example as to how secular education can destroy the Fitrah. Seriously, it can corrupt the Fitrah, where the Fitrah is craving to be in the presence of Allah. The correct way, that Fitrah can now be burnt to go into a different direction. And every time I look at this brother or see him on social media, I think, oh my God, I used to love this man for the sake of Allah. He was a great lecturer, a great teacher, but now look, secular education, the Ivy League. It did it to him. So we have to be careful of that. Let's look to see what Sheikh Kareem Abu Zayd says here. As Muslims, we have to understand that throughout the early years of our life, education is critical in developing our mind and our perspective of the world. And we're talking about secular education, not religious education. We have to be balanced. As Muslims, we are a people of balance. Yes, we need to learn about Allah, learn about the Prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, learn the lawful, the unlawful, and all of that. But you also want to be educated about the world around you too. You need to learn that the earth rotates. You need to learn that the mountains keep it from going out into space. So education is critical, not just religious education, but regular education too. Because these two things combined together, religious education and education of the world around us, lays the groundwork for our intellectual growth, our character development, and also our cultural values. And I want every Muslim listening to me to remember, our culture is Islam, because Islam is not just a religion. It's a way of life. It's a culture. Your culture is not Somali. My culture is not Egyptian, American. Our culture is Islam. Okay? And that's where the well better comes in. Anything that imposes upon our Islamic culture, we distance ourselves from it. If it doesn't impose upon our culture, it's okay. But if it conflicts or imposes upon our way of life, we let it go. We distance ourselves from it. And this is where we fall into problems, living in a non-faith-filled environment, such as America. We put our children in secular schools, and those schools influence our perspective of the world. Those schools influence our fitrah too. So we have to be careful of that, guys. Very careful. And even for the adults, like I said, I'm using this one brother as an example. Look what happened to his fitrah. He's an adult. He's a 30-some-year-old man, he was. But he decided to keep on pursuing his education. Instead of going back to Medina, instead of going to El Azhar, he went to one of the Ivy League Kaffir schools. all that psychology, all that philosophy, and look what it did. So we have to be very, very careful. One of the problems with America, I keep telling you guys, America is and always has been a Zionist country. That's why America broke away from England. That's why George Washington and Jefferson and them developed that Constitution. Okay? They wanted to be free and separate from religion, free and separate from a monarchy. They wanted a democracy based on majority rule and no religion at all. And America was built upon that. It's in the Constitution, you know, that religion and state are separate. I just retired 2 years ago. I used to work for the government. And that's the thing they would stress to us always. There's a separation between the state and religion. We don't mix the two, which played to my benefit as a Muslim, because they couldn't come at me about none of my religious practices because there's a separation. So this is the problem when you're living in a non-faith environment. Religion and state are separate, and this results in a vacuum in which the Fitrah, your Fitrah, or that inner light, becomes exposed to other influences instead of religious influences. It's got other worldly influences now hitting it. Remember, the Fitrah is attracted to anything that leads it and makes it become closer to Allah. The Fitrah craves the presence of Allah. The soul is criminal. The soul is attracted to what's bad and dirty. And when you put your children in secular schools, their Fitrah is exposed to all these things that contradict Allah, that contradicts religion, that instead appeases society. Does everybody understand that? So that's the first problem with secular education. And then there's a second problem with secular education too. The matters of right and wrong. A non-faith-centered environment, they could care less about what Allah or divine, how the divine creator views right and wrong. Okay? Non-faith environments, they have financial support. They receive financial support from other organizations that have nothing to do with religion. And in order to give that support, they're going to want something in return. If you want me to finance, for example, your music department, I need this in return from you. You want me to finance your library, then I need this from you. And they also influence the curricula too. You want me to support your school. You want me to give you $1 million. Then I'll need for you to add to your curriculum free sex, free gender, free choice, and abortion, and all of that crap. So that's what comes about when you're seeking financial support from organizations that are not religious. They'll give you that support in turn for something else. And even administrative decisions, they may want something in return. And this is where it gets really, really bad for us Muslims in America. Not only do we have to be cautious when it comes to putting our children or ourselves in secular schools, but this is a problem with religious schools too. Oh, yeah. Administrative decisions. Maybe the boys and girls should be able to free mix. Maybe we're going to add to our curricula this Sufi textbook on the dead and how the dead travels and all of that. So even when it comes to Muslim or religious schools, we have to be careful. And for those Muslims putting their kids in Catholic schools, you know that's a no-no, because your children are learning how to pray to statues and all of that totally opposes Islam. And then with the Muslim schools, you have to make sure that the curricula and the administrative decisions don't contradict the Quran, don't contradict the Sunnah. So you have to be careful with these Muslim schools you choose to put your kids into. So it's a big problem, guys. A big problem. Non-Muslim administrative decisions may impact the way we dress. They don't want your girls wearing hijab. The boys can't wear thobes. Instead, they want them to wear a certain type of uniform. Okay? This gender thing. A child can choose whether or not it wants to be identified as male or female. All of this stuff goes against the Fitrah, but it appeals to the soul. And like I said, even for Muslim adults, you decide to go to Harvard, Princeton, the Ivy League schools. They're going to impose upon you a lot of philosophy. They're going to impose upon you a lot of psychology, Sigmund Freud's theory, Einstein's theory, and all these other theories that totally contradict what Allah says. And you end up adopting some of that ideology like Ibn Sina did when he spreaded this so-called Islamic theology crap from out of Persia through the Muslim world, this Mu'tazili movement. So there's a lot of risk, guys, when it comes to secular education. And again, the risks are there even with religious education. You have to check the school, check its curriculum, check the teachers. What's their ideology? What's their mission statement? And see if these things contradict what Allah says or what the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with. Okay? Also, it's important as Muslims that we pay attention to the role of the media in these non-religious environments that we're in. In America, the media is everything. The media shapes and molds our opinions. The media shapes and molds our values. Example, look how the media is pushing same-sex marriage upon us. The children can't even watch a cartoon anymore without there being a same-sex relationship. You can't watch a soap opera. You can't watch an action movie now without some homosexuality being displayed in it. That's the power of the media. The media shapes and molds our opinions and values. So as Muslims, we have to be careful of this because all of this has a negative impact upon our fitrah. All of this can extinguish the light within our heart known as the fitrah and instead cause it to become dim and blackened. And we have nothing but the soul that we're giving into. Even the books we read, the magazines we read, television, radio, The music that your children listen to, rap music, that's horrific. That hip hop crap. Sex, drugs, murder. The video games we play, sex, drugs, murder. So we have to be very cautious of all these things when it comes to nurturing our fitrah. So thus, guys, as Muslims, it's very important for us to conduct in-depth investigations of the predominance of non-Muslim influence when it comes to the media. We have to be critical of what we expose ourselves to and our children, what television, what radio, what magazines, what books, what movies we expose ourselves to, because all of this can dim that fitrah. And we need to come up with other ways or other outlets for ourselves, to keep the public from having bad ideas of us, because we are trying to change. We don't want to conform and become like society, into homosexuality, into the drugs, into that. So we have to work together to try to get the public to see that we're not wrong for wanting to maintain our Muslim identity. We have to work together to try to get the schools to see that our children are not bad or defective because they're trying to maintain their Muslim identity. We have to be careful when we put ourselves in these non-secular universities like Princeton and the likes, that we keep and maintain our Muslim identity. Because all of this, failure to do this will destroy it. So now let's have a quiz. Let me give you guys a quiz. Who can tell me, what are some dangers? What are some of the dangers we expose our children's fitrah to when we put them in secular schools? What are some of the bad things that we expose our children's fitrah to when we put them in secular schools? Anyone? Easy question.
They're exposed to immoral behavior. They're exposed to immoral thoughts. And they learn things that go totally against our belief system.
Such as?
Homosexuality.
Okay.
What's another one? My God, what don't they learn?
You tell me.
Having the choice of whether you're going to believe in God or not, because for some reason the public school, it diminishes that light of belief in the law.
Exactly.
Boy, I could go on and on with that one.
Yes.
But it's so much that it takes away from our children, and it also teaches them to speak freely, and they can disrespect their parents, and the parents can't do anything to them, or their parents can get arrested. So
good job. Yeah, also, they can move out. You're 16 years old. If you want to move out of your parents' house, you can. That's a problem I had today. A sister called me today, and she texted me today. She said, Layla, where I live at, the children are considered they can move out at 16. She said, my kids, I raised them Muslim. And what am I supposed to do? I don't want my kids moving out. They want to move out because they don't want to practice Islam. And the sad thing is, there's nothing she can do. Because that's the state that she lives in. A child is considered an adult at 16. They can drop out of school. They don't have to go to school, and they can move out of their parents' home. And there's nothing she can do. But this is what happened because she exposed her kids to secular education, and they want to be like the Kafirs they hang with. Yes.
I almost forgot to mention, nowadays, what they're doing in the public school now is your child, and I'm talking as young as elementary school. I'm talking from kindergarten to 5th grade. They have the option of telling you whether they want to be male or female, or if they want to be an animal. And the teachers are are giving into that. And if a child wants to be an animal, they will actually put a bowl on the floor for your child to drink out of. And you can't say anything as the parent.
Oh my God.
They have too many rights for these little kids.
That is ridiculous. All that came about when y'all voted for Obama. Y'all see why we don't participate in elections? Y'all can blame Obama for all of that. And for all of you Muslims in America who voted for Obama, when I kept telling y'all we don't vote for nobody that's a kafir, y'all gonna answer to Allah for that. Okay? Obama did all of that. That black man who's an apostate, whose father was Muslim, but he wasn't. Oh, yeah. Good job. Good job, Rashida. Anybody else? Yeah, so there's a lot of dangers that we're exposing our children's fitrah to in secular school. But it doesn't
And
end.
also, too, I wanted to add, Sister Layla, because some of these teachers, when you see Muslim kids that's dressed up in the way they're supposed to, they will actually have teachers that's making comments to the kids or whatever the case may be. And when the kids change their clothes at school, they don't even let the parents be aware of anything. They don't even let the parents be aware of anything that has to do with religion at all. They won't let you know anything. And they will have for someone else to let you know what's going on with your kids.
Oh, yeah, that happens a lot. A lot of Muslims, find out later after the fact that their children were participating in Halloween. After you done told the teacher that my kids don't celebrate Halloween, but they done dressed your kid up like a little Polyander, a gay blade, and had him swinging off a lamp, and won't tell you. Yeah, there's a lot of dangers that we expose our children's fitrah to in secular schools, but it doesn't end there. When looking at Muslim schools for our children, the same thing can happen there too. So what should we look at in regard to the administration to assure that our children's fitrah is not tarnished in a so-called Muslim school? What should we be careful of? If you want to put your kid in a Muslim school, what should you look for? What should you investigate? What should you find out about that school and about the people there before you assign your kids up for it? Because they can destroy it too.
We should be looking into their mission statement. We should be looking into their Akida, their curriculum, everything that they're actually teaching there, to find out exactly if they're going to be teaching your kids to pray to a rock and all that other stuff.
Okay, that's yes. And then what else? Other things too that I didn't mention, but you guys should definitely know to look at.
You should be looking at the kids.
Go ahead.
And you should be looking at racism, like who's
there
on
you
the
go.
board. You should see if there's like a diversity upon the board, upon the teachers, and not just one race. And
that's the number one thing. Y'all hear her thing? I want her to talk more about that, but I want to stop her for a second. Racism. This is one of the biggest problems in Muslim schools, especially depending on what part of the world or of America you in. The South is even worse. And I'm talking Texas, even worse. Texas has always been the redneck state. Not only is it a redneck non-Muslims, but you got the redneck racist Muslims there too, those Arabs there. If your kid is black, if your kid is from Africa, African American, a lot of them schools won't even let you sign your kid up. Or if they do sign them up, they're going to treat them like dirt. They'll call your kids names, make fun of them. So you want to look for diversity. What do they have? Black teachers, white teachers, Hispanic teachers, or are they all Arab and white people? Seriously, this is one of the things I like about Sheikh Kareem Abu Zaid's school, Safa USA. Y'all want to know why I'm always promoting his school? Diversity. When you go to his website, he don't show all these little Arabic kids with the flags of Palestine. Oh no! He got kids from Africa, kids from Pakistan, kids from Afghanistan. all different colors, hugged up to the teachers, hugging. He's got a picture of him holding a black child on his lap, kissing him so lovingly. That's why I support his school. He's letting you know subliminally, no racism here. It don't matter what color your child is, what part of the world your child come from. We all about one ummah. Dignity, humility, and balance. Before you sign your kids up for these schools, look at their website. What, do you see any black faces in there? You see any Pakistani faces? Are there any Chinese, or is it all Arab? Arab, Palestine. That's all you see. Ain't nobody got time for that. That racism. That tribalism. Flags. Look for flags. Flags is a sign of tribalism. The flag of Egypt. The flag of Palestine. The flag of Saudi. We got to look at that type of stuff because that's telling you what they about. So we have to be just as cautious nowadays, especially in America with these Muslim schools. That's one thing. Now, you guys know I don't care for the UK. I do not like the United Kingdom. I don't like their history. Y'all know I'm a historian. I don't like nothing about the United Kingdom. But one thing about them, they got some good Muslim schools there. The Muslims in the United Kingdom have more diversity, and they're more into teaching the basics of Islam and not that racism. That's the only thing I think that the United Kingdom Muslims have over on American Muslims is the educational system. I would never move my kids from there. If you got children in the United Kingdom, you better keep them there in school. Don't think of coming to America because America ain't got no good Islamic schools unless you put your kids, homeschool them through Safa USA. Homeschool them through Safa USA. That's it. Because the racism, America has always and will always be the most racist country in the world. Even the Muslims are. It's horrific how they treat Black people in America. Oh yeah, that's a fact. So you got to look at that stuff. What else you look at? You look at, of course, the curriculum to make sure it ain't no Sufism and Shiitism and crap. You look to see diversity. What else? Go on. What else should you look at in Muslim school? Everybody quiet about that racism. Oh, yeah. It's bad.
You should also look at the teachers, seeing if some of the teachers wear hijab, because I know people out here and like two or three teachers, white women, they don't wear no hijab.
Exactly. Look at the teachers. How can you be a Muslim school when your teachers are not even adhering to the laws of Allah? How are you gonna help enhance the fitrah of my child when your fitrah burned out long ago? The fact that you are openly, publicly disobeying Allah shows me that you ain't qualified to teach my child or anybody else's, because you're letting my child know that you choose to disobey Allah. Y'all look at that. Are the women dressing properly? Do the men have beards? What type of example are the teachers setting for your sons? His teacher, his Quran teacher doesn't have a beard. Well, he's openly disobeying Allah. How is that going to help your fitrah, your child's fitrah? The beard is an obligation, just like praying is. So you look at the teachers, how they dress, how they behave, the diversity in color, race. Do they have women teachers? for the girls? Do they have male teachers for the boys? Because this is another thing, free mixing. Okay, or, you know, it's still best to keep the sexes separate because Allah said it's best. Are my daughter's teachers all female? Are my son's teachers all male? And by the way, he got any sex offense charges? Y'all got to look at that now too. We got to look at that too, the sex offense charges. A lot of Muslims are doing that stuff here in America. Not only do we have a problem with racism in our Muslim schools, but we got a problem with men touching on girls. Oh yeah. See, that's what happens when you leave a faith-filled environment and relocate to a secular environment. We pick up the behavior of the kafirs. Just like the kafir men molest the girls, the Muslim men doing it too. Oh yeah, that's a big problem here in America in these Muslim schools. Oh yeah, I hear about it all the time. So you got to check that. Are these teachers reputable? Do they have any, have they been found guilty or accused of sex molestation? Because that's a problem. And Muslims, unlike non-Muslims, cover it up. One thing about the kafir, they're going to expose you for messing with their children. Muslims take a bribe. Oh, give me $1 million for messing with my daughter, and I'll turn my eye to it. You got to look at all that. Okay. Any other comments on that? Any other comments on what to look for in Muslim schools?
Yes, I was going to say that you should also look for how do they handle the prayer times, and how do they handle, like for your boys, how do they handle Fridays, and do they encourage them to like go to the mosque? And some of them have mosque attached and they take them, but some of them don't. And you have to be mindful of that so they can pray, you know, when they're in school or not in school, and go to the mosque for the boys.
Big point. Big point. Do they do Juma prayer? Do they have Juma services? Most of the schools are attached to the mosque. Do the kids go to the Juma prayer? You know, what do they do for Ramadan? What's the curricula for Ramadan? You know, all that type of stuff has to be considered, guys. You don't just say, oh, it's a Muslim school, I'm gonna put my kid in it. Oh, girl, no. The racism, especially at racism. Oh my God. Even I went through that. You know, my grandkids, believe it or not, I had my 3 oldest grandkids. I had them in Muslim school when they were young. I paid $600 per child. I had my oldest grandson, who's no longer with us. May Allah forgive him of his sins. Ameen. And Jayla, my granddaughter, the bad one that y'all know that's always getting on my nerves. They were in Muslim school. I paid $1,200 a month for the 2 of them for a whole year. I took them out when I found out what was going on in there. The racism was ridiculous because my grandkids don't look like me. They're darker in color because their father is Jamaican. Because their father's Jamaican, they're dark. Okay? The racism, the way they were teased. Well, my grandson was light, but he was teased because he was a boy. It was weird. I had to take them out. My daughter took them out of the Muslim school. The Muslim school did more harm to them than the non-Muslim school did. That racism is horrific in America. I don't care if you in the South. I'm in the North, West, East. You got to check that because we got some racist people here. It seems like the worst of the world comes to America. You know, America was founded on criminals, by criminals. They would send the bad people to America as punishment. Well, it seems like the people that migrate to America are the worst of their society too. It's just sad. So we have to check all that stuff out. Are they practicing? Is the curricula based on Quran and Sunnah? Is there diversity amongst the staff? How do they handle our religious obligations? Are the girls and boys separate? Are the teachers according to gender? Because that's very important, especially as your daughters grow into puberty and your boys too, because all this homosexuality. You know, their funding. Look at the funding, where they get their funding from. Because when you're getting funding, why do you think all these mosques are doing this interfaith? Y'all know why they do interfaith? Because of the funding they're getting. I know that because when my website went when I made my website nonprofit, that's why I don't get no funding. If I took funding from somewhere, I'd have to follow their rules. I'd have to teach them Christianity. Oh, heck no, ain't no Christianity coming in here. We'd have to do interfaith. Ain't no interfaith here. Are you crazy? So I remain a 5013 where I just get donations because I'm not going to jeopardize Islam for no money. But that's why a lot of these mosques are doing all that interfaith dialogue, because that's part of the funding. They're not going to get the funding that they get unless they do. Some of these Muslim schools, a lot of the Muslim schools got non-Muslim people that work there. Their teachers are not Muslim because in order to get the funding, they got to hire. They have to abide by the law and not discriminate. Hire non-Muslim teachers. And some of these Muslim schools have non-Muslim students because of the funding. If you want us to give you $1 million a year, you have to open your doors to all walks of life, not just Islam. You got to have Christians in there, Jewish kids in there. You got to go down and get some of the kids that's in poverty. Oh, yeah. So you got to ask them about their funding. Because whoever they're getting their funding from, they got to abide by those rules. So it's a big thing, guys. It's a problem. All right. Okay, I'm going to stop right here. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik. Are there any questions? And like I said, even with you adults, same thing. As you move up, searching for those master's degrees and those PhDs and all that crap, what price are you paying for them? This famous speaker, he used to be here at Sunnahfollowers all the time. I had all his lectures. Look at him now. Look at where he went to PhD from Ivy League. At what cost?